Episode 23, Leadership with Spine. You know that thing when you're scrolling in the morning, still in bed maybe, or making coffee, and the feed is just war, that children, homes flattened, whole families gone, one post after the other. And it's all real, and it's all there. And you're just standing in your kitchen. And then, an hour later, you're in a meeting. And someone's screen sharing a roadmap. Q2 priorities. There's a little banter. Someone's mic is glitching. And that's it. It's like nothing's happening. Like we are on a spaceship flying past Earth and nobody's looking out the window. And I'm not saying we should turn every stand-up into a political town hall. But the silence, it's loud. It's strange. It's disorienting. And if you're in a leadership role, people are watching what you don't say. Not because they need you to have an opinion on everything, but because they are trying to understand if you're still in there, if you still care, if the lights are on. It's weird, right? We built all this vocabulary around psychological safety, engagement, well-being. And then, when the world is visibly on fire, we act like talking about it would be unprofessional, like it would be too much or too risky. But what's the risk, really? That someone disagrees with your humanity? A client told me recently she works in a big firm, lots of comms protocols, and after a particularly horrific news day, she asked her manager if they were planning to say anything to the team. Just something, even an acknowledgement. And the manager said, "We don't want to create tension." But the tension is already there. People are crying in bathrooms. They are doom scrolling between meetings. They are holding back tears in Slack. And when leadership ignores all that, the message isn't neutrality, it's absence. And absence creates mistrust. Not the loud kind, the quiet, slow kind. The kind where people stop bringing their full selves. Because what's the point? Here's the thing. Leading in times like this doesn't mean making big declarations. It means being present, showing that your heart still works, that you're capable of feeling, of being touched, even when there's no clear policy. You don't need a perfect statement. Sometimes just saying, "This is hard to witness," is enough. Or, "I know many of us are carrying things we don't talk about it here." Or even just making space for silence that isn't avoidance. I've seen leaders do this in small ways. One person added a moment of quiet at the start of a team meeting. No explanation, just a pause. Another shared a poem. Another asked, "How's everyone's heart today?" Not mandatory sharing, just permission to be human. And yeah, some people will stay quiet. Some will roll their eyes, but others will breathe a little deeper. And that breath matters. There's no playbook for this, no checklist. And maybe that's what makes it real. You have to feel your way through it. Be awkward, be unsure, but be there. Because if leadership means anything, it's not just holding the line, it's holding the human. Even when especially when the word makes no sense. So if you're in a position where people look to you, ask yourself, am I looking away? And if I am, why? And maybe also, what would it take for me to look just for a second longer? Sometimes leadership looks like getting it wrong and say, I got that wrong. Sometimes it's not knowing what to say and saying that. And sometimes it's choosing not to change the subject. I worked with someone last year who kept a small candle on their desk, not for show, not for branding, just for grounding. And when something heavy was happening in the world, they light it at the start of a call. No explanation, just light. People noticed. People thanked them. And it didn't fix anything, but it made the space feel different, more real, and less brittle. We forget that the emotional field of an organization isn't separate from the work. It is the work. When people are dissociated, disconnected, they make safer choices, smaller bets. They hold back. They protect. And when they feel seen, even a little, they open. They bring their intelligence, their care, their ideas. They contribute more freely because they are not spending half their energy managing their emotional mask. So this isn't about performative empathy. It's about attunement. It's about being a nervous system that other people can regulate around. That might sound abstract, but it's not. It just means breathing a little slower, listening a little longer, and speaking like you mean it. And if all of this feels too hard, maybe that's the clue, that there's something in you asking to be witnessed to, because we are not separate, and pretending we are, that's what burns us out. You don't have to be a hero, you don't have to be wise, you just have to stay human and let that be visible. Even just a little. And maybe it's not about knowing what to say at all. Maybe it's about making space for other people to speak. For someone to ask quietly after a call, did the story hit you too? And then letting that conversation happen. Even if it's messy, even if it's short, and even if it leads nowhere. Because the moment it happens, the field changes. The room feels less brittle, less fake. There's a kind of reverence in not pretending. So if you are leading others, maybe start there. Just don't pretend. Until next time, this is The Orange Twist, and I am Giovanna D'Alessio.